Okay, good morning. I'd like to record my courses. So far, this is the second uh, class session. I don't think we've really, we'll probably get a few videos in, and probably maybe sometimes you got to get the full. But this is a story that really never begins and never ends, or whatever. I mean, the Bible, this is in the beginning, right? So there was a beginning, but some people say, you just go to the end and you go back to the beginning. And that's the way of life for some creatures, you could say, because they start as, maybe for those of scientifically inclined, it's started in a hot cesspool of amoeba, work their way up the evolutionary chain. They get to human beings, and then, when they get there, it's death and destruction and what you might call, you know, revelation, in the Bible, the last book of the Bible, and then they go back to the beginning. And they're like, well, we should all, we should all do it that way. Well, that implies no progress in historical progress. Let's say, as time goes by, we just go in an endless loop, and that's a kind of hell, especially, sure to have a past life awareness or regression, but regardless of the physical body you might be in, whether amoeba or human or dinosaur, perhaps your basic behavioral patterns are the same, just the equipment that you use. Another variation of the story that hell is hell. It's all the same, but change of scenery from the Hindu scripture describing, there are many hells, there are many planets of hell, and just going from one hell to the other until you reach nirvana, and then you don't have to go back to hell. But so it's right in the scripture, even for Hindus, that you reach nirvana. Well, what's for nirvana? I guess you achieve the two things. Number one, where do you want your soul to rest? And number two, where do you want your what kind of physical body do you want? Or the one you have now, say it's Judgment Day. Now, not everybody agrees it's Judgment Day, but throughout history, I was saying it's Judgment Day. Maybe that's why. Those are the people, who go round and round in circles. But for the history of this planet Earth, we still are ruled by governments. We are still, you get the same old stories that you heard 7 years ago or 10 years ago. Obama is, this or that, and now the Pope. But you see progress in the eschatology, eschatology, is, end times timelines in themselves, the end times timelines based on the book you're using, whether the Muslim, the Christian, or the Jewish. Each one has end times timelines. Some of them more similar than others, or whatever, depending on the commentator. They'll tell you, well, Christians and Jews, they pretty much agree on most things in the end times, but Muslims have some other, who knows, what I mean, you might be an expert at one book and not the other, translation difference, so we don't know. But there's a historical progression that's implied as a second issue. There's two issues with Judgment Day: your individual judgment regarding your future. And you might want to go back from Revelation all the way back to Genesis, throughout your existence, your eternal existence, and that might be your choice. In most of these end times movies, you're given a choice, but be real. I mean, that's what's going to happen. It's your decision. So So, but you got to fight your way up. They have an evolutionary chain. So, mm, I start from an amoeba, I guess, nowhere to, among living things, nowhere to go. That's the very first single cell organism. So, you can't go anywhere down from there among living creatures. But anyway, some people say, well, human beings, well, they're at the top, or well, some people think the lion. Interesting, the word lion is the Lion of Judah, a word, one of the terms used for God or Jesus Christ, and I think of the song El Shaddai by Amy Grant. It's really using a lot of Jewish language, different names for God, El Shaddai being one of them, but also Lion of Judah and Lamb, and then the crucifixion is depicted in the original video for that. Some people criticize Amy Grant, it's more of a Jewish interpretation, but whatever, the end times eschatology between Christians and Jews are quite similar, and one issue that came up today, among, and you don't know, because remember, some people are just going back to the beginning, so their timeline is, just circular throughout history. Other people are going to Revelation, and then we start to write new books, and that's part of what the attempt here is in this text and this classroom, and the text I'm developing as the guide for this first attempt by myself. First of all, for those of us who want to progress in human history and this part of the world, and and other people have already maybe I had a friend who watched Star Trek. This is fiction, right? Sci-fi? No, he really believed it was real. What you see on Star Trek. Maybe we just are not aware of it. Some of us, but whatever is released in the public from the government, you tend to believe, like space station, NASA. Now they're saying they want to populate the moon. And yesterday it was reported, actually by HelloFresh, where I get some of my food, at least once a month. I don't know who controls that organization, but food delivery. You want to vary your food supply. A lot of people say in anticipation of Judgment Day, nuclear war, those kinds of things, whatever. Even in anticipation, so you're pretty much trying to stay indoors if you have a place to stay. Some people just prefer it outdoors. Some people prefer the beach, those things. Wherever it is, I happen to be in a physical indoor place. Well, whatever it is, your comfort area for most of your time. So say you're indoors mostly, you get most of your food delivered, or you go to the store for this, and just to vary it. So I get most of my food delivered, small items that they have at the convenience store. I go outside when I can for those items. And it's good to get out. One problem in some nuclear shelter areas, even those that were tested or those were genuine, limestone caverns, no fresh air, or air ducts were built in but sealed or whatever, either by accident or by purpose. Here in Bakersfield, we weren't far away from Las Vegas, where some of the original reported nuclear tests were conducted, and so the radius around Las Vegas to Bakersfield is not out of the question that you start to build these structures. In fact, some of the videos that you'll see online will show clearly that whole towns were built, for testing nuclear weapons, testing. Certainly they were reported in the Arizona, New Mexico area, and I've seen videos of these towns, the structures with like these test robot dolls or whatever, like they use for car crash dummies, they call them. Car crash dummies. They developed those types of dummies for nuclear weapons testing, and you'll see this if you look that up on videos. They didn't report those for Bakersfield, but this is pretty much a pretty new city, and usually it was what it says it was, a field, for farming, and so those were perfect for being a circular area around, and to build structures. Maybe the first bomb, or in the southern Nevada area, was detonated, I think, towards Arizona, but you imagine a mushroom cloud, and you just, I'm sure the scientists had a very good idea of where the fallout would be and so forth, but what if there was, so I would imagine in all the circular areas around Las Vegas, going out hundreds of miles, really, even Los Angeles, was the roads were used to be all trains and stuff, and they replaced them. Interestingly, during I believe World War I, replaced all the trains, this intricate train systems. There's a movie about that with the roads. As Henry Ford developed the automobile in the factory for mass production of automobiles in the first decade of the 1900s, and Model T Ford. So they need some test sites. So they used Los Angeles as a test site for mass-produced automobiles, I imagine. And there's always conspiracy theories, but imagine you can just rebuild a city and use it as a test site. Around here in the western United States, a lot of cities are used for testing. Even the Google cars, these self-driving vehicles, they used cities, I think, in Nevada, certainly before California. Then they suspended testing, and they've had some crashes or something, but so they'll use the city for test site. And Los Angeles must have been a major test site for the automobile, beginning with the Model T Ford, the first mass-produced automobile. But I digress. So a lot of these structures in Bakersfield, Arizona, New Mexico, may have originally started certainly whether these structures, but certainly the designing. And over in the Mojave Desert, we do have a live test areas for military purposes. It's a lot of desert. They have Air Force testing, live fire testing. They have tanks, and say you're going to the Middle East, those tanks might be testing, those planes might be testing, all that stuff. It's all desert, similar to Middle East, and certainly in the wars, ongoing wars, and past wars in the Middle East. The tanks, the planes, everything, just around the corner here in Mojave, California. And even they introduced nuclear pellets for bullets. So you do have some evidence of nuclear type of weaponry, just little nuclear tipped bullets. But anyway, again, just bringing little pieces of evidence. And that's a theme here. It wasn't really a military theme, but of course, end times of the Bible is a military theme. So the first point, we're not really talking about scientific proofing of military questions, but really the question is, assume for a moment, just exactly as you're taught in church, you have an afterlife, and some things that reviewing some videos. So this lesson today might be a little longer than I'm trying, because I'm digressing so much. I'll try to speed it up. So this will be a review of the materials I've reviewed myself over the last 24 hours, and what I believe to be true and what I believe not to be true. So number one, be careful about what you believe in. In 2014, the Pope was shown giving an important talk with business leaders, and the invocation, Gregorian chants, was a prayer to Lucifer. But the word "loose" and you know, Latin languages, L-U-Z, or Lucifer, L-U-C-I-F-E-R. Well, luz means light, so let there be light, but, in the Bible, there's certain words often used interchangeably, but they're not referring to the same people. So Lucifer, Satan, the devil, they may not be, the same people at all. But this is all speculation. Some people often use those words interchangeably, and language is language, and faith is faith. So we're trying to get you to belief, and what are you to believe in? So the Holy Bible itself on paper refers to the Abrahamic religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. There are texts from all three of those religions in the Holy Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. Interspersed are, areas of poetry, prayers, and things like that. And there's a lot of material in there, really, an enormous amount of material. The second point is that the materials that are really put together and officially accepted by the Catholic Church, in 399 Council of Nicaea. So Jesus was crucified in 33 AD or AC, after the birth of Christ in some countries. Now you see that language again. But was not the Bible that we have today was not put together and officially voted on. It was a very close vote, like one vote this way or that way. Was not voted on until 399. So that's over 300 years later. Books that were not accepted. Many of them are available. They're considered apocryphal. It means they're outside the accepted text. As a student, you might look at them, but as a believer, you are not to believe those things. So if you are a believer, number one, the Bible, the Holy Bible, I'm sure translation is not the issue, but the Holy Bible, you just have to accept it, number one, as it is. So I think it says, no one will add to it or subtract from it, but that's many people do. And say you write a book, and you can be technical about it. You could write an analysis, a study guide, or you write another book which is consistent. It's almost like a translation. If you're really brilliant, as some people, like maybe Joseph Smith was brilliant and wrote a book, or rather translated a book. Nobody knows whether he wrote it. Some people, it's official Mormon theology is that he found some place, and this was a translation of he was a translator, just like Martin Luther literally was a translator, almost around the same time, really. Martin Luther in Germany, and why was there so much going on at the time the Mormon Church was founded? Well, Gutenberg Press. So you had these plates, a gold plates, highly valued, But why was it around that time? Well, the introduction of the Gutenberg Press, and actually there's a museum here not far in California, Carson, California, or Carson City. I think Carson City would be Nevada. Carson, California is a museum for the Gutenberg Bible. They have a replica